Most people think their lucky days come from their sun sign's weekly horoscope. Tuesday is good for Aries, skip Friday if you're a Scorpio, that sort of thing. And there's a reason this feels convincing. It's simple. It's portable. It fits in a fortune cookie. Your sign rules certain days of the week through old planetary associations, so of course those should be your best days, right? Except here's the problem. If that were the whole mechanism, every Aries on Earth would have the exact same lucky Tuesday every single week for their entire life. And anyone who has actually tracked their own good days against a horoscope column knows that's not how it plays out. Some Tuesdays are magic, most are just Tuesday. So what's actually going on when a day feels charged in your favor, and why does the generic version miss it almost completely? Let's start with what's actually true in that popular version, because it's not nonsense, it's just incomplete. In traditional astrology, each day of the week is ruled by a planet. Sunday belongs to the Sun, Monday to the Moon, Tuesday to Mars, Wednesday to Mercury, Thursday to Jupiter, Friday to Venus, Saturday to Saturn. This isn't decorative. It comes from the old geocentric ordering of the planets, and it's baked directly into language. Saturday, Saturn's day, still sitting there in English, so the logic runs, if Mars rules your sign, Tuesday should be your day, because you're getting a weekly booster shot of your own ruling planet. Clean story, wrong scale. Here's the missing piece almost nobody puts on screen. A planet ruling a day of the week has almost nothing to do with where that planet actually is in the sky right now. Today, this month, this year. The weekday system is a fixed, repeating loop, completely detached from the real moving positions of Mars, Venus, Jupiter, and the rest. Meanwhile, your actual luck, astrologically speaking, comes from transits, the current positions of the planets in the sky interacting with the planets in your birth chart. Those two systems, the weekday loop and the live transit sky, are not the same clock, and they almost never agree with each other for long. Think of it like this. Imagine your natal chart is a lock cut with a very specific individual pattern, the exact degrees and angles where the planets sat the moment you were born. The weekday system is like walking up to that lock every 7 days with the same generic key labeled Mars, and just trying it regardless of whether it fits. Sometimes it happens to slide in, most of the time it doesn't, because your lock wasn't cut to that key alone. It was cut to the specific configuration of the whole sky at your birth. Real luck comes when a moving planet in the sky actually matches the shape of your particular lock, not when the calendar says it's supposedly that planet's day. So if weekday isn't the real mechanism, what is? This is where we get into the actual investigation, and it has 3 layers. Your natal chart's sensitive points, current transits activating those points, and larger cycles that set the emotional weather underneath both. Layer 1, natal sensitive points. Every chart has certain places that function like pressure-sensitive buttons. Your ascendant, the exact degree rising on the horizon at your birth, is one. Your sun, moon, and any planet that's strongly placed, meaning it's in a sign it rules or exalted in, tends to be another. Also watch the rulers of your first house, the house of self and initiative, and your 10th house, the house of career and public standing, because when those get activated, luck tends to show up somewhere visible, not just internally. These points are like exposed nerve endings on an otherwise fairly padded structure. Touch a padded area, you feel a light tap. Touch a nerve, you feel it immediately and specifically. Layer 2, transits. This is the moving sky overhead today compared to your fixed birth chart. When a transiting planet forms a close angular relationship, astrologers call these aspects conjunction, trine, sextile, mainly for the favorable ones. With one of your sensitive natal points, that's when a day tends to feel unusually charged. Jupiter is the one most associated with luck in the traditional sense, expansion, opportunity, being in the right room at the right time. When transiting Jupiter forms a trine to your natal sun or sits conjunct your ascendant, that's not a metaphor. That's a specific, measurable angle in the sky, lining up with a specific, measurable point in your chart. Venus transits tend to smooth social and financial doors. The moon, moving fast, about 2.5 days per sign, provides the quick emotional green lights. The days you just feel more magnetic or more perceptive, even if nothing enormous happens. Layer 3, the cycles that set the weather. This is the part almost no weekday horoscope touches. Your Jupiter return, meaning the roughly 12-year point when transiting Jupiter comes back to the exact degree it occupied when you were born, tends to open a noticeably lucky window, sometimes lasting the better part of a year, not one day. Saturn returns at roughly ages 29, 58, and so on, aren't lucky in the fortune cookie sense, but they reward disciplined effort in a way that can look like luck later, when the thing you built during the hard season finally pays out. So already we've split Lucky Day into 3 completely different mechanisms operating on 3 completely different timescales: a fast lunar layer measured in hours, a mid-range transit layer measured in weeks, and a slow cyclical layer measured in years. The weekday model only ever tried to explain the fastest layer, and even there, it used the wrong clock. Now, here's where it gets genuinely interesting, and where I think the standard explanation actually breaks down in an instructive way. If Jupiter transits were the whole story, then everyone currently under a Jupiter trine should be having a great month, full stop. But two people can have the exact same transit and experience it completely differently, and the reason is dignity and house placement, both natally and by transit. Dignity refers to how comfortable a planet is in the sign it's currently transiting through, based on rulership. Jupiter transiting through Sagittarius or Pisces, signs it rules, tends to express more generously, more expansively than Jupiter transiting through Capricorn or Virgo, where it's in what's traditionally called detriment, meaning it's functioning in a sign that constrains its natural style. Same planet, same aspect, angle to your chart, different intensity, because the planet itself isn't operating at full strength. It's like a generous friend visiting you, but on a day when they happen to be broke. The goodwill is there. The resources to back it up are thinner. House placement matters just as much. If transiting Jupiter is trine your natal sun, but that trine is activating your 8th house, the house associated with shared resources, debt, and transformation versus your 5th house, the house of pleasure, creativity, and romance, that lucky energy is going to show up completely differently. 8th house luck might look like an inheritance clearing, a loan getting approved, or an old entangled situation finally resolving. 5th house luck might look like a spontaneous date going shockingly well, or a creative project suddenly clicking. Both are legitimate lucky transits. Neither one looks like winning the lottery, because luck in astrology was never really about randomness. It's about doors opening in the specific life area the transit is touching. This is also where I want to address the strongest objection to everything I've just said, because it's a fair one. Doesn't this basically mean luck is just a label we slap onto ordinary events after the fact, cherry-picking whichever good thing happened near a nice-sounding transit? It's a fair challenge, and the honest answer is, astrology doesn't hand you a guarantee. A Jupiter trine doesn't force a good outcome into existence regardless of your choices, and it doesn't override effort, timing, or plain circumstance. What it does in the astrological framework is describe a kind of open channel, conditions that make certain outcomes easier to reach if you actually move toward them. Someone sitting home during a beautifully aspected Jupiter transit, refusing every invitation, isn't going to have doors open for them, because doors that are unlocked still need to be walked through. So the honest version of the thesis is not, this day guarantees luck. It's this day lowers resistance in a specific area of your life, and what you do with lowered resistance is still yours. So let's actually build the real method, since by now it should be clear the weekday shortcut was solving the wrong problem entirely. Start with your natal chart, and specifically locate your ascendant degree, your sun's degree and sign, your moon's degree and sign, and the ruling planet of your 1st and 10th houses. These are your nerve endings. Then, rather than checking which day of the week theoretically belongs to your sign, check where Jupiter and Venus currently sit in the actual sky, and whether either one is within a few degrees of forming a favorable angle to any of those natal points. That's your mid-range lucky window, and it might last anywhere from a few days to a few weeks, not neatly landing on one weekday every 7 days like the folklore promised. Layer on top of that the moon's daily position, because when the fast-moving moon also touches one of those same sensitive points on a given day, you get a short, sharp spike layered on top of the longer favorable window. That convergence, a slow cycle door already open, plus a fast lunar trigger passing directly overhead on a given afternoon, is what an unmistakably lucky day actually feels like from the inside. And this is really the deeper implication of the whole investigation. The weekday model failed not because ancient planetary day associations are meaningless, they're historically real and linguistically embedded in our entire calendar, but because it collapsed 3 separate timescales into one repeating 7-day loop that never actually corresponds to the live sky. Your luckiest days aren't a fixed weekly appointment. They're closer to weather than to a train schedule, predictable in pattern, specific in timing, but never on a rigid 7-day rotation because the planets themselves don't move in 7-day rotations. Mars takes about 2 years to circle the zodiac, Jupiter takes about 12, the moon takes about a month. None of that divides evenly into weeks, so any system built purely on weekday can only ever be coincidentally right. Which brings us back to you and the actual chart sitting underneath whatever sign you were told to trust a fortune cookie about. If you've ever noticed a day that felt genuinely different, oddly smooth, unexpectedly generous, a door opening you didn't even know was closed, it probably wasn't because it was your day of the week. It was more likely a moment when the slow cycles and the fast lunar sky briefly agreed with each other over one specific sensitive point in your personal chart. That's rarer than weekly. And honestly, that's what makes it worth paying attention to instead of ignoring for something built to fit conveniently onto a calendar grid. So I'll leave you with the actual question worth sitting with. When you look back at the days that genuinely surprised you in a good way, do they cluster around any particular week of the month, any particular season of the year, or do they feel scattered and unpredictable? I'd love to know what you've noticed in your own life. Drop it in the comments, and if this kind of chart mechanics deep dive is your thing, subscribe for the next one.